Okay, so if you spend any time online, like on social media, you've probably seen them, right? These posts screaming about deadly foods.
Oh, absolutely. Or the latest diet myth that's gonna, either save your life or end it tomorrow.
Exactly. It's just this constant barrage. It's overwhelming. And honestly, a lot of it feels like straight up fear-mongering.
It really is. And that's why we're doing this deep dive. We really want to cut through that noise, all the sort of apocalyptic talk,
Yeah.
and find the actual truth, based on real science, evidence, regulatory research, not just scary headlines.
Which is so important because it's genuinely confusing for people just trying to figure out what to eat.
Hmm.
So for this deep dive, we're leaning heavily on insights from debunking food myths, science versus sensationalism. Great source for this.
It really is.
And we're going to cover some big ones today. We'll get into the real science behind GMOs. Spoiler, is probably not what you think.
Right.
Then, what's actually dodgy about fast food? Hint. It might not be what the viral posts are saying. And we'll revisit that 7 deadly foods list that pops up everywhere, but, with a scientific lens.
So basically, we're aiming to give you a shortcut, help you get genuinely informed about food choices.
Make decisions based on facts, not panic.
Exactly. Facts, not fear.
All right, let's jump in. Genetically modified organisms, GMOs.
Yeah.
Huge topic. Tons of fear campaigns online.
Massive fear, yeah. But here's the thing, GMOs. They're actually some of the most intensely studied things in our entire food supply.
Really? More than other stuff?
Oh, extensively. And regulated, too. There's a huge scientific consensus that they're safe to eat.
Okay, but for someone still thinking, I don't know. What's the killer evidence for that safety? The health stuff specifically.
Well, the population studies are pretty compelling. Think about it. North America has had widespread GMO consumption for decades now.
Right, U.S., Canada.
Exactly. And when you compare health data like rates of cancer, infertility, organ damage between North America and, say, Europe, where GMO intake is much lower.
What do you see?
You see, no difference. No difference in disease rates that you can actually pin on GMOs. Decades of data. Millions of people. That's pretty significant.
Wow. Okay, no difference. That is huge. But what about the environment? That's another big worry you hear.
That's a fair question. And it's nuanced. It's not all good or all bad.
How so?
So some GMO crops, like the ones resistant to glyphosate, Roundup Ready soy, they can lead to more herbicide use. That's a valid concern.
Okay.
But other GMOs actually reduce the need for pesticides. Take butt cotton, for instance.
Butt cotton?
Yeah, Bacillus thuringiensis. It's engineered to produce its own insecticide, basically, and globally. Its chemical insecticide use on cotton by something like 37%. That's enormous.
37%. Wow. Okay, so trade-offs. Some upsides, some downsides.
Exactly. And then there are the nutritional innovations, which often get overlooked in the fear.
Like what?
Well, golden rice is a classic example. It's genetically modified to have vitamin A.
Right, to fight deficiency in certain populations.
Precisely. Addressing serious malnutrition. Or think about low acrylamide potatoes. Acrylamide is a potential carcinogen that forms when you fry or bake starchy foods at high heat.
Does the potatoes make less of it?
Yeah, which is a win for food safety. These are, tangible benefits from the technology.
And just to put one myth to bed completely, that plastic rice thing.
Oh, goodness. Total conspiracy theory, zero scientific basis, just misinformation gone wild.
Okay, good to know. Because you actually see people sharing that seriously. It's wild.
It is.
So understanding this GMO stuff, the reality of it, it helps you cut through the noise, right? Avoid unnecessary fear.
Absolutely. It lets you focus on where the real issues might lie.
Which brings us nicely to fast food. Maybe the mythical dangers aren't the problem, but are there actual dangers we should know about?
Yes. And the real culprits here aren't, Frankenstein ingredients. It's more about contaminants and ultra processing.
Contaminants, like what?
Okay, get this. Independent tests have found some really concerning levels of heavy metals.
Heavy metals.
In fast food.
Yeah. Cadmium in French fries, for example, found at levels up to, wait for it, 11,158% above the EPA's water safety limit.
Whoa. Over 1,000%. Why compare it to water limits?
Well, the water limit is set for constant daily exposure over a lifetime.
Yeah.
So finding that concentration in a single serving of fries, it just puts it into perspective. It's shocking.
Yeah, that is shocking.
What else? Lead in burgers, also way up there, 912% over the limit.
And cadmium. What do those actually do to you? Is it like one bad burger and you're sick?
It's more about accumulation. These metals build up in your organs over time, kidneys, brain.
Oh, wow.
And that can lead to things like kidney damage, cognitive issues, even developmental problems in kids. It's that chronic, low-level exposure from frequent consumption that's the worry.
Okay, so heavy metals are one serious issue. What about the processing itself, the ultra-processed nature of it all? Yeah, that's the other big piece. Regular consumption of ultra-processed food is just strongly linked to a whole host of problems. Obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease,
Yeah.
the list goes on.
And specific things within those foods.
Definitely. Industrial trans fats, for one, they're terrible for brain health, seriously linked to increased dementia risk.
Dementia from trans fats.
Yeah. And then you've got the refined carbs and sugars. We know they spike blood sugar, contribute to diabetes risk,
Right.
but they can also impact your brain directly. Studies show high intake can actually shrink the hippocampus.
Shrink your memory center.
Basically, yeah. Your brain's key memory hub. Not good.
Okay, so these are the things to actually be concerned about with fast food. Heavy metals, trans fats, massive sugar loads, not like weird rumors.
Exactly. Tangible threats with real health consequences.
All right, so let's pivot to something else we see all the time. Those deadly foods lists. You know, never eat these 7 things.
So yeah,
You know,
yes, the infamous lists.
They can sound pretty scary. But if we look at them through that scientific lens we've been talking about, what do we find? Are they all bunk?
It's interesting, actually. Often there's a kernel of truth to the concern, but the conclusion, like, avoid this food entirely is wrong. The issue is usually more specific, and there's often a better solution.
Okay, give me an example.
Canned tomatoes, they pop up on these lists. The real concern isn't the tomatoes themselves, it's the can lining.
A lining.
Yeah, many cans are lined with resins containing BPA, bisphenol A. It's an endocrine disruptor, meaning it can mimic estrogen.
Okay, so BPA leaching into the tomatoes. That doesn't sound great.
It's not ideal, no. But the solution isn't never eat tomatoes. It's simple. Use tomatoes in glass jars instead. Brands like BioNature, for example. Problem solved.
Okay. So switch the packaging. What's another one?
Corn-fed beef. The concern is legit. Compared to grass-fed, it's lower in healthy omega-3 fatty acids and higher in potentially inflammatory omega-6 fats.
So less healthy fat profile.
Right. But again, the solution isn't no beef. It's choose grass-fed beef. It's higher in good stuff like CLA, conjugated linoleic acid, and vitamins. Just a better choice.
Makes sense. What about microwave popcorn? I feel like I hear about that one a lot.
Yep. The issue there isn't the corn, it's the bag.
The bag.
Those bags are often lined with PFAS chemicals, per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, sometimes called forever chemicals.
Oh, right. PFAS. Not good.
Not good. When you heat the bag in the microwave, those chemicals can leach into the popcorn. Some PFAS are linked to cancer and other health issues.
Yikes. So the solution.
Ditch the bag. Just buy plain kernels and air pop them, or pop them on the stovetop. Then you add your own butter, salt, whatever. Much safer.
Simple swap again. Keep them coming.
Non-organic apples. They often make the dirty dozen list for pesticide residues. One chemical sometimes found is phenylamine, used to prevent storage scald.
Fungicide, basically.
Right. So the solution, buy organic apples if you can. If not, washing them really well or even peeling them can help reduce exposure.
Got it. Farm salmon.
Yeah, that's another common one. Concerns include potential contaminants like PCBs, polychlorinated biphenyls, which can accumulate in the fat.
PCBs.
Yeah.
Those are industrial pollutants, right?
Yep. Also, concerns about antibiotics used in some fish farms and generally lower levels of beneficial omega-3s compared to wild salmon.
So the alternative.
Opt for wild-caught salmon, especially from cleaner waters like Alaska. It's generally considered a safer, more nutritious choice.
Wild Alaskan salmon. Okay. 2 more on the typical list.
Milk with RBGH. That's recombinant bovine growth hormone, sometimes given to cows to boost milk production.
Right, the hormone thing.
The concern centers around IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1. It's a natural hormone, but levels can be higher in milk from RBGH-treated cows. Some research has suggested a potential link between higher IGF-1 levels and increased risk for certain cancers.
So what's the fix?
Easy one again. Just choose milk-labeled RBGH-free or organic milk. Lots of brands offer this now, even store brands like Walmart's Great Value.
Okay, readily available. And the last one you mentioned, potatoes.
Conventional potatoes, yeah. Unlike apples, where peeling helps a lot, potatoes can absorb chemicals applied during growing, like fungicides and herbicides, right into the flesh. They're tubers, growing underground.
So washing and peeling isn't enough.
It helps, but maybe not as much as with some other produce. So for potatoes, prioritizing organic is generally recommended if you eat them frequently, skin and all.
Okay, organic potatoes, got it. So looking at that list, it's really about making smarter choices within a food category, not wholesale avoidance.
Precisely. It's about knowing the specific concern and finding the practical, safer alternative. It empowers you in the supermarket, doesn't it?
It really does. It feels much less scary and more actionable.
Hmm.
Okay, so we've got these practical swaps, but thinking bigger picture, there's this idea, your body is a temple. How do we apply that kind of wisdom without just getting totally bogged down in food fear?
That's a great question. It really comes down to discernment, I think. Ancient wisdom meets modern science.
Discernment, not paranoia.
Exactly. It means understanding where the actual significant risks lie, based on evidence, and prioritizing those, not sweating every single ingredient.
So like understanding relative risk.
Yeah. Take mercury in fish. It's a real neurotoxin concern, especially from big predatory fish like swordfish or some tuna. High levels aren't good,
Right.
but the answer isn't never eat fish, because fish has amazing benefits like omega-3s. Discernment means choosing lower mercury options more often, like salmon or sardines. It's about smart choices, not total restriction.
That makes sense. And what about other things the source is flagged as maybe more concerning than, say, GMOs?
Well, sugary drinks came up quite strongly. The source material linked high consumption to potentially double the risk of dementia. That's significant.
Double the risk. Wow. That's a clear thing to cut back on.
Definitely. And then there's the topic of artificial sweeteners, things like aspartame.
Yeah, what about those?
The science is still evolving, but there's growing research looking into how they might disrupt the gut-brain axis, potentially affecting mood regulation, maybe even metabolism in ways we didn't expect.
So maybe not as free a choice as we thought?
Possibly. It suggests being mindful about intake, maybe not relying on them heavily. It's about seeing the whole picture of your diet.
Yeah, moving beyond just focusing on one bad food or ingredient.
Exactly. It connects back to that broader idea of overall well-being, looking at patterns, not just single items.
Okay, let's try to tie this all together then.
Yeah.
If you've been listening to this deep dive, what's the main message? What should you walk away with?
I think the biggest thing is stop wasting energy fearing frankenfoods. The decades of science just don't support the idea that GMOs are the big health destroyers.
Right, shift the focus.
Shift the focus to the proven threats. We talked about them. Heavy metals hiding in fast food, pesticide residues on produce, especially the dirty dozen, and all those industrial additives and processing techniques in ultra-processed foods.
So an action plan, what does that look like?
Okay, number 1, prioritize organic for those high pesticide items, the dirty dozen. Apples, potatoes, spinach, strawberries, stuff like that.
Makes sense. Reduce pesticide load.
Number 2, really try to minimize ultra-processed foods. Remember that stat? More than about 20% of your daily calories from that stuff starts to significantly raise risks, especially for brain health.
20%. Okay, that's a good benchmark. What else?
Number 3, while the science shows GMOs are safe to eat, push for transparency. Clear labeling for GMOs and gene-edited foods empowers you to make the choice you're comfortable with. Consumer choice matters.
Transparency is key. And finally,
Cook more. Cook whole foods at home. It sounds simple, but it's probably the single most effective way to avoid a lot of this stuff. The packaging chemicals like BPA and PFAS, the hidden heavy metals, the industrial additives, you control the ingredients.
back to basics in a way.
Pretty much.
Mhm.
And maybe a final thought to leave people with. When you consciously choose food grown well, maybe regenerative, organic, supporting cleaner farming practices, you're doing more than just nourishing yourself.
How so?
You're honoring your body, yes, but you're also participating in a system that takes care of the planet. Your food choices have ripples. Think about that broader impact. Healthier you, healthier world.